particularly in this context, woke people are using certain words. They don't traffic in the normal meanings of words when we look them up in the dictionary. Like equity would be another a perfect word that's totally misunderstood. My kids go to public school here in Oregon, or my daughter, my son graduated. Every email, equity, 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 equity. Do you know what equity means?
You're asking me?
Ask somebody in your film crew over there.
David, what does equity mean?
Today.
Well, this is a 7th time, but what does equity mean, David?
To have a piece of something, yeah, like to.
No, not equity of a company. Equity as an equity in society. Equity.
Oh, I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know.
Equity in society to be.
Well, that's what they're talking about. Yeah, it's not equity like you own a piece of the company.
All right, so this is wonderful. This illustrates the point. The vast majority of people have no idea what the word equity means, and the guy that you're going to fire after this episode, he's absolutely
it's been great having you, by the way.
He's absolutely correct. They've changed the meanings of words. So equity means to make up for, this is Ibram Kendi's definition, or part of his worldview that feeds into the definition. To make up for past injustices, we need future injustices and future and present injustices. So if people have been systematically discriminated against because they're, gay or trans or black, we need to fix that by discriminating against people who don't have those characteristics. The other thing to think about with equity is you want equality of outcome, not equality of opportunity. That's why the governor of New York, for example, has
AP classes.
Well, they're getting rid of the talented and gifted programs for kids, because the idea is it's an equity-based system. It's not. It's the opposite of equality. But the only reason I mention this at all is because one of the reasons that woke has made such inroads is that in when you ask David, most people don't know what these words mean, and so we're basing policies, educational policies for our kids in K-12 systems, for our judiciary, for our media. We're basing these for the ACLU, the Southern Poverty Law Center. All of these things are now a value that suddenly sprung into existence that nobody heard of 5 years ago. And if they did, it was in the context of finance.
Now, who's driving this, though? Who's driving these initiatives? Who's the mastermind behind this today? Because it seems like it's sudden that this happened in the last 5-10 years.
Yeah, that's correct. It started in the university system and it leaked out of the university system. I want to say two things. You remember how shocked you were at the 99% of people?
Very much so, yes.
Okay, so I think the problem is that people get way too caught up in, this is a right-left thing, or conservatives or Republicans. Forget about that. Let's say that the people in there were Mormons. Let's say that 99% of the people at a university were Mormons. Do you think that and it was a liberal arts university, as opposed to STEM or civil engineering or math or something? Do you think that those kids would get as good of an education from that as they would if there were intellectual diversity, where there are some Mormons and some Muslims and some atheists and some Christians?
Of course, you're going to have more, if you have diversity, if you have sure.
And so that's part of the problem. Part of the problem is that you're correct. Intellectual diversity benefits our kids. It benefits our democracy. It benefits our society. But when you hear the word diversity, which is a very, very common word now, what they mean is two things. They mean intellectual homogeneity. They mean an environment in which everybody thinks the same and has a certain set of beliefs, but has superficial characteristics.
Yeah, but I guess what I want to know is, do you know who drove these things? Like, who is driving these initiatives? Like,
yes,
and then next, what's the master plan? Because you're not going to be able to push this for too far. There's going to be pushback by people on the opposing side that they're just not going to take it eventually. So who's driving this and why?
Okay, so that's a separate question. So we've identified the problem. We've seen how here's what happens. So kids go into the university system.
Yeah.
They're taught by people who believe this. These people are true believers.
Okay.
Not all of them, because they've created a culture of fear. So anybody who speaks up against it is a bigot, is a homophobe, is a racist, is a misogynist, is a Nazi in some cases. And so So they have jobs for life. It's called tenure. They teach people, basically what are moral conclusions. They test them on it. 3, 4, 5, 6 years later, these kids get out. They get out of the university. They go into the workforce. Because they have degrees, then they occupy positions of administration, management, etc., and they bring these ideas with them: the pronoun ideas, the safe spaces, the trigger warnings, the microaggressions. The nucleation point where this all starts is the university system, all of it.
So if you like this little short clip from an interview I did, click over here to watch the entire interview, and please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.